the most important thing we do for storytellers is to keep work in America.
Yeah.
And there's not one silver bullet that's going to make that happen, but definitely state tax incentives, federal tax incentives. We have to make it worthwhile to be here. We have the best crews. We want to shoot here. And now I think the networks and studios need to help us be part of that solution to keep one of our most important exports, which is storytelling, American storytelling, alive.
Welcome to Behind the Lens. Today I have truly a television legend, and when I read all the shows she's done, maybe I'll do that in front of her. She is also the president of the Directors Guild of America and has been nominated for the Directors Guild Award so many times, won 3 times, Emmys, 8 Emmy nominations, and among her shows, Homeland, Mad Men, ER, West Wing, Twin Peaks, her very first one, and now Zero Day, an incredible limited series on Netflix starring Robert De Niro, an incredible cast all the way through. This is Lesli, Linka, Glatter. Hi, how are you?
So great to be here. I hear that and I'm like, oh my God.
You've been working here a while in this business.
Or you could say OLD, but I still love it. I love this crazy job we do. We get to be storytellers, and I'm going to keep on doing it until they roll me on the set with my walker and my oxygen tank.
You are. And on top of that, you're head of the whole union, I mean, and that's a full-time job.
It's a lot.
Imagine.
It's a lot. And every past president who talks someone into running lies.
Really?
About, it's not that much work. We're built on working leadership, which we are.
Yeah.
And are deeply committed to. But it's also amazing. My dad was a label organizer. So at the dining room table, it was like, you get to a certain place, you're supposed to give back to your community.
Yeah. So you've liked doing this then?
I think it's been really challenging because I've been working the whole time, which every president does. But it's really challenging.
Yeah, and then of course, right in the middle
of the strikes,
this all happened, and that was a very important period to get things that you needed for this industry.
Absolutely.
Somehow, the Directors Guild always finds a way to do it and get it done first, and as opposed to I'm in the Writers Guild and I'm in SEG, and both of them like to thrive on chaos, I think.
We represent 19,800 members. 40% are the directorial team.
Yeah.
UPMs, ADs, stage managers, associate directors, and directors have to get things done. Yeah. So we do 2 years of research before going into negotiations. Like we're directors.
Yeah.
And listen, we have to get the best deal for our members. Every guild and union has to do that.
Yeah.
And we come in very clear with what we want, what's important, what's a necessity, and we'll fight till we get it. We just try to stay in the room.
Yeah, and I being a member of those other unions, I really respect what they did to go out and for their members really say no, we're drawing a line here too. It's important.
Absolutely. We support our sister guilds and unions, and we're working in coalition, the Entertainment Union Coalition, in terms of tax incentives here in California, because that has to happen. Rebecca Ryan, who is our second at the DGA on the staff, is, in charge of that or running that with everyone, with all the guilds and unions support.
What do you think
I have to say, right now, production is down 40%.
What do you think about the fact that production is down so much? Of course, we're coming out of pandemics and strikes and everything else you can name.
And here in LA, the fires.
And the fires, the most recent catastrophe, really hitting this industry hard in its hometown.
The most important thing we do for storytellers is to keep work in America.
Yeah.
And there's not one silver bullet that's going to make that happen, but definitely state tax incentives, federal tax incentives. We have to make it worthwhile to be here. We have the best crews. We want to shoot here. And now I think the networks and studios need to help us be part of that solution to keep one of our most important exports, which is storytelling, American storytelling, alive.
Yeah.
So we have to do that.
When you started all those years ago, in this part of the business, you were a dancer and choreographer and all kinds of things in another world.
Yes.
But when you started here, female directors were not that much.
Oh, no, not at all.
You were kind of like a rarity.
Yes. I didn't feel that at the time. And I think that's, I had been a modern dancer and a choreographer, and that was a time when the American government actually sponsored the arts. Yes, I know that's a crazy thing to think of, but I had spent 11 years overseas. So I had been in Paris and London and based in Tokyo, but doing concerts and teaching and choreographing all over the Far East. That changed my life, needless to say. So when I moved to Los Angeles, where I had never been before, and I had this story that I had to tell that was told to me by my mentor in Japan, who I met in a coffee shop by chance. So had I walked in the coffee shop on the left versus the one on the right, I would have never directed.
Wow.
That's what I made my first film about.
My God. Now, your first film, I should say, was not for television. It was for movies. It was a short.
Yes.
And it was nominated for an Academy Award. Your very first film, you come here to LA and you get nominated for an Academy Award, Best Live Action Short.
I mean, it's as big a shock to me as it is to you.
Wow. I mean, this was 1985.
Yes, it was.
Right? And that's unbelievable.
Yes. Needless to say, I did not expect that to happen. That was a total shock and an amazing thing. But I have to say, that was my mentor's story. The older man that I met in Tokyo in a coffee shop by chance, who became my mentor. And he told me 6 stories that I knew I had to pass on, and I knew it wasn't dance.
Wow.
So had I, again, walked in the coffee shop on the left, I would never have directed.
Just amazing.
Isn't that crazy?
And then your first show that you did was Twin Peaks.
That's my first series.
Yeah.
My first show was Amazing Stories.
Amazing Stories.
Yes.
Well, that ain't bad either.
Oh, no.
Spielberg and all of them behind that series.
That was like my film school. I feel like, Stephen had seen Tales of Meeting and Parting, my short narrative film, on an airplane, which I thought and still do think that's incredibly exciting and impressive. And he called me up.
Wow.
And of course, I thought it was a prank call, and I hung up on him.
No. You hung up on Steven Spielberg?
I did. But of course, thank God he called back. And he has been my mentor since that time.
Wow.
And even now, he's still my mentor.
Is he really?
I feel blessed.
Isn't that great to hear?
Oh, my goodness.
I love that. Yeah.
And it's why I feel so committed to mentoring, because I've been so well mentored.
Yeah.
But Twin Peaks was my first series.
You go from him to David, the late, great David Lynch.
Oh, my goodness. Please.
It's like an iconic show.
Yes. I did 3 Amazing Stories, which really was my film school. Yeah. And then in Twin Peaks, which was, again, a very unique experience, a director-run show, and I directed 4 of them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it changed my life.
Did you understand the scripts?
I have to say I did. Now, what does that say about me? That's the bigger question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what kind of advice did David Lynch give you?
Oh, the way David Lynch gives advice. I mean, Stephen gave me some amazing advice. This is a story I've told, but it bears repeating.
Okay.
David had directed the first episode after the pilot.
Yeah.
And there's this incredible scene where Michael Onkeen and Kyle MacLachlan are in a bank vault looking at a safety deposit box. And there's a moose head on the table. And nobody refers to this moose head. It's just sitting there, and it makes the scene. Wow. And so I asked David, where did you get the idea to put the moose head on the table? And he said, it was there.
Wow.
I'm like, what do you mean it was there? He said the set decorator was going to hang it up on the wall, but he saw it lying there, and he said, leave the moose head. And something cracked open for me. Like, be sure you have your plan, be sure you know what your story's about, but also be open to the opportunity that comes from wherever. You know, be open to the moose head on the table. Don't miss something extraordinary because you have this plan that's so fixed. Be open to life.
Isn't that great?
I know. Doesn't that sound like David Lynch?
It totally does.
Yeah.
Now, let me just read some of these. The Morning Show, Law and Order, Ray Donovan, The Leftovers, The Newsroom, Justified, Walking Dead, True Blood, The Good Wife, House, Gilmore Girls, Grey's Anatomy, Freaks and Geeks, NYPD Blue, on and on and on. Those are just a drop in the bucket. And those are all amazing shows. You pick well.
You know, I think because I came out of being a dancer where you make no money, that if I read something and I didn't relate to it, I knew I wasn't the right person to do it. And because I was used to being poor, that was not the pull for me. Like if I didn't read something and actually see it or understand or feel like I was the right person, I didn't do it. Now, my accountant or my managers would not be happy with these choices.
Right, yeah.
But it was kind of the only choice I felt I could make.
Yeah. Well, you didn't do like Return to Gilligan's Island or anything, so.
I'm looking forward to that. I hope someone does. I think there's an idea there.
Yeah. I'm always interested, though. How is it going into an established show as a director? You're the one walking on there that is the stranger from a strange land.
Oh, yes.
And, you know, you're going to a group of actors and creatives, producers, writers who have been there week after week. Is that a difficult thing or, you know, because you've done it so much?
Yes. And, you know, I've done a lot of pilots too. So I've had, and limited. So I've had both of those experiences of coming in as a guest and kind of setting the look and feel and tone. And I'm going to steal this from Paris Barkley, the wonderful Paris Barkley.
He was here once. Yeah.
I believe that. And he said, being a series director is like going into somebody else's kitchen and being told you have to make a gourmet meal, but you only have the ingredients and the cookware that is there.
Yeah.
You know, maybe you can bring in something of your own, like your special knives or some spices or something like that.
Yeah.
But basically, you have to tell a great chapter of that story with the ingredients that are there.
Wow.
And that can be a really interesting challenge.
Totally.
You know, so I think that's a great way to describe it. So I'm stealing
came into Mad Men, did one of the best episodes on Mad Men, got all kinds of nominated. Well, you won a Director's Guild Award and nominated for an Emmy for that one. So, you know, and
you know what? I read that script and it's called A Guy Walks Into an Advertising Agency.
Right.
And it was not it was a very kind of unique Mad Men script. And I think I had directed maybe 3 other Mad Men before that.
Yeah.
So I was very aware of the world. And I read it and I was terrified.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I thought the script was so out there that I thought either this is going to be a complete disaster or it's going to be amazing.
Wow.
And I just had to embrace the story.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's when not a motorcycle, a lawnmower comes into the advertising agency and chaos ensues.
Chaos ensues.
Yeah. I approached it like a little mini action sequence inside the ad agency.
I love that.
Yeah.
And of course, Homeland, you directed 25 episodes. I don't know what the number was, but, did it for years. So many nominations and wins at the Directors Guild as well. That show was very special for you.
So special. And as I walked into this room,
yes, we're here on an unfinished floor here at our new building.
And the building's really cool. But immediately I thought, oh my God, this is a great place for Claire Danes to be interrogating an asset. I would love to shoot this scene.
That would be perfect here. Perfect location to come and shoot in Los Angeles.
I'm going to get it out of you, Pete.
Bring that production up. We are available. I shouldn't say this.
No.
You can rent this place out, guys, and nobody would even know.
But it was an amazing experience being on that show. I mean, I had an extraordinary collaborator, Alex Ganza, who created the show, and we were like mom and dad, and we traveled the world. And what was so exciting about it is every season we would go to a new city, a new country, and that came from the idea that we would all go, the writers, Claire Danes, Manny Patinkin, to Washington and have a week of meetings with the heads of the CIA, NSA, DNI, State Department, paramilitary, investigative journalists, and basically ask the question, what keeps you up at night? What are your deepest fears for America and the world? And that's where the season would come from. So every year we were kind of reinventing the show, and that made it incredibly exciting with the greatest group of collaborators.
It would be so interesting to bring that show back right now, because if you ask me the question, what keeps you up at night, it is the heads of the CIA, the FBI, the NSA, the Defense Department. I mean, very few of them have any experience. I mean, isn't this ripe for Homeland?
Oh, absolutely.
It's so wild. But the interesting thing that you have done now for Netflix, got to see the show. It's called 0 Day. That is torn. I don't want to say torn from the headlines. It's torn from our lives right now, except you couldn't have known exactly where we'd be when this came on. I mean, this is one of those China syndrome things that becomes like so possible that I looked at some of this and I'm really thinking, should I go take all my money out of the bank? I mean, it's that real.
Yes. Well, I think the question in 0 Day is, what is truth in a post-truth world?
Yeah.
And if we
welcome
can't...
to our world.
Welcome to our world. And if you can't agree on what is fact and what is opinion, how do you have a conversation if we're not all dealing with the same facts? But a 0 Day event is a flaw in software that can be hacked.
Yeah.
And you can take down an entire system, whether that be transportation and aviation, banking, power, and these are cyber weapons. To take down the heating grid in Ukraine during winter, that is a cyber attack.
Right.
Yeah. And the biggest fear, which has not happened, this is the only thing in 0 Day that is created, is that there have been many 0 Day events, but not one that affects every industry at the same time. All at once. And we wanted to look at, the horror of 9/11. If there was another event that affected everyone in the country, would we behave differently? Would we search for the truth? Would we come, let's look at what would happen in that situation. And it's very realistically real. I mean, my partners in this were Eric Newman, who created Narcos, Noah Oppenheim, who was president of NBC News for many years and wrote the screenplay for Jackie, and Michael Schmidt, Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist for the New York Times. So everything is really researched and, yes, it's a narrative story. It's not a documentary.
Right.
And it's very dramatic.
Oh my God. Yeah.
But it is based on fact.
Yeah. It's fascinating. And it stars Robert De Niro as the former president brought in to run a commission to find out how this happened.
Exactly.
Who may have made it happen. And, knowing Robert De Niro's politics so out there and everything, it's an interesting role for him, I thought, and perfect, although it's not De Niro out there. It's not a partisan.
No, not at all. We were very careful not to make it partisan.
Yeah.
Because in the world we're living in now, people can't hear other opinions. So we tried to not do that. So maybe you could watch it and, have your own opinion or listen to somebody else's. I mean, again, it's a narrative story, but that was the choice in not making it partisan.
Not to give away too much, but that's definitely the way this gets resolved is in a very nonpartisan manner. It's people from both sides, all sides, sort of banding together for what they think, creating their own little niche. It's really fascinating.
It's what we hope people will ultimately do.
Except we don't hope they'll do this.
No, God, no. But that people ultimately, that the truth will win out.
Right.
That people's, higher sense will be victorious rather than...
Absolutely.
Yeah. So,
and did you know that... Kamala Harris would be the Democratic nominee for president when you cast Angela Bassett as the president of the United States?
We did not know that at all, I have to say. And I should also add, working with Robert De Niro, what an absolute joy. Like, I was nervous, I had to say. I mean, he's a legend.
I mean, you don't get better than Robert De Niro.
But what a great collaborator and a wonderful human and a great number one on the call sheet.
Yeah, and he's so good at it.
He's so good.
I know.
And, he plays a past president who has been out of the public eye for 12 years.
Yeah, and some people think he's going senile. And,
yes. Yeah, and it questions what is acuity in a leader and how important is that.
Yeah.
And, again, they... working with this particular cast on every level was so joyful.
Yeah.
We're in a team sport. You are only as good as your team. And I feel blessed to have been working with this particular cast with Jesse Plemons and Lesli.
Jesse Plemons, the great Joan Allen.
The great Joan Allen. Connie Britton. Yeah.
Lizzie Kaplan as his daughter, who's now a congressperson. And I have to say, Dan Stevens. Who I've loved in so many things.
Yeah.
But Dan Stevens is playing Tucker Carlson.
Yes.
I mean, you can say, oh, no, it's no, he's got the rhythms down. I mean, it's a fictionalized character, but boy, is he playing him, this guy that's just spewing all this kind of extremist rhetoric.
Yeah.
And he's so good here, too.
So good.
Yeah. And what happens to him, I thought was really interesting, the way this goes. What kind of reactions have you gotten to this series?
Oh, my goodness, all kinds. I mean, incredible reaction, and I'm so thrilled that it's done so well for Netflix because we want people to watch it.
When you use the word important, it's an important show to watch because it's got things that are so realistically could happen.
Yes.
As you were saying, maybe not all at once, but you know what? I wouldn't rule it out.
I wouldn't rule it out either. I mean, that is the biggest fear of the intelligence community is
that will happen.
And would we descend into chaos and how quickly? And Bill Camp saying that.
Oh, Bill.
The amazing Bill Camp. Yeah.
And then you have a character, it's a woman, but basically she's Elon Musk.
Yes.
The tech wizard,
Abby Hoffman.
Yep. So good.
Yeah.
And that's key too, because you realize we're slowly being taken over by Silicon Valley and the tech world and money and all of that. And you can't write this stuff. You have to stay so far ahead when you're doing a show like this.
The thing always with all these important themes, and yes, it's a paranoid conspiracy thriller, is at the heart of it, you want complicated, layered, complex characters.
Right.
Without that, nothing matters. And I love the idea of what is each individual character's moral compass.
Mm-hmm.
What is their relationship with truth? I mean, for Mullen, for De Niro's character is, truth is truth.
Yeah.
And for Angela Bassett, President Mitchell, it's, yes, truth is important, but it's not always the most important thing.
Which I thought was a very interesting kind of thing
to say. Which he says. And, so that to me is fascinating.
Yeah.
And again, it was one of these incredible situations. We shot for 103 days.
Wow.
And I'm still here.
And you're still here.
And I'm still here.
And you directed all 6 episodes of this limited series.
Yes.
Because sometimes I talk to directors who do the first 2 or come in to do the last 2, and then they're producers on it. But you chose, it's like making a movie.
Oh, yes. 3 of them.
3 of them. But why did you want to do all? Was it just like you want complete control?
Well, again, in our team sport, do we ever have complete control?
Right.
But it felt that the kind of project it felt like it needed to have one singular vision in that way. And also, we cross-boarded all 6 hours. So it would have been really hard to have multiple directors on this. We, with that kind of schedule. And I think that was a real challenge for all of us, for the actors, to keep everyone, exactly in the given circumstances of where they are, and that in the right episode, exactly what's going on, where they've come from, and I think it would have been so confusing any other way. And I also think Bob had never done any kind of television. So the idea of having multiple directors is just a completely foreign notion.
Right. He did one limited series once, but he basically is movies.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing. Is it true you recreated the Oval Office using Homeland set?
Yes.
Well, you knew where they were.
Well,
they didn't throw them away.
Well, it was in Virginia. They were being stored in Virginia. And we had built it. It's amazing that there's not like a standing West Wing set, because so many people use it.
My God, you shot the West Wing too, the series, But
the bottom line is, it's really expensive to build the Oval Office. It's oval, and we know what it looks like. You can't make up another version of this.
Yeah.
So we had built it so many times. We built it in Morocco. I built that bloody Oval Office so many times. So we got the oval that had been stored. It was not in great shape. So, of course, you have to redo it and repaint it. But, yes, it's the Homeland Oval. We are recycling here.
Wow.
We are green.
I love it. As we speak, you're venturing on to yet another, is it a limited series?
It's a limited series.
Called Imperfect Women.
Yes, and we have Imperfect Men as well.
Oh, you have some Imperfect Men. I only know the Imperfect Women are people you may have heard of: Kerry Washington, Elizabeth Moss, and Kate Mara.
Yeah, which I'm so excited about, working with all of these amazing women. But it was just announced Joel Kinnaman is joining the cast, which I couldn't be happier. And there'll be a few more announcements very soon.
Good. And this is another venture into limited series.
Yes, though I'm not directing all of them.
Oh, you're not?
Time. Yeah, I'm doing the pilot, and then I'm doing 2 other episodes.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is a different version of that. And, what's amazing that's happened in TV is, you can tell a story for the length of time it needs to be.
Yeah.
If it can be ongoing, great. But if it's a 6-hour, because that's what the story needs, or an 8-hour or whatever, that's really exciting for storytelling.
Yeah, exactly. And so this is for Apple.
This is for Apple.
Yeah. Do you like streaming and where they drop all the episodes all at once? Or do you like that? Let's talk about it at the water cooler, as they say. And,
that's a good question, because there are pros and cons. Do I like streaming?
Yeah.
I like good storytelling.
Right.
I like filmmakers to have the option to tell the stories they're compelled to tell.
Yeah.
And I think there are pros and cons. With Netflix, so the last thing I did before I did 0 Day was for HBO Max. And the first 2 episodes were dropped, and then subsequently an episode a week. Netflix drops everything at the same time.
Exactly.
Always. And around the world, in all the countries. It's unbelievable. And that's a very positive thing, too. So I think there's something exciting about the water cooler and people talking about it and not knowing, what's going to happen for another week. It creates an energy, but there's also something about all of it being there.
Yeah.
And
it's interesting.
So I don't think there's a right or wrong in that one.
Yeah.
And definitely in 0 Day, some of my favorite scenes, speaking of, where 2 people have completely opposing views and they're both right.
Ah, so there you go.
There you go.
Yeah, and Matthew Modine, I should say,
Lesli Modine,
Speaker of the House. He's
unbelievable in it.
yeah.
I mean, he's, again, blessed. Like, I was like the happiest director around to be working with this incredible cast, and everyone brought 100%.
I have to say, it's an incredible piece of work. Kept me on the edge of my seat, and watching it, and then turning on the regular news and seeing people in the streets with their signs and things, and I'm going like, God,
oh my God,
this is life imitating art.
And it became, I think, in some way, more relevant.
100%. That's why I say, how do you stay ahead of the game here?
And you know what? I don't think you can. I think you have to tell the best version of the story you have.
Yeah.
And then the world shifted around in ways we could never imagine, and it became even more relevant, I think.
It's amazing.
And yes, there are going to be, we definitely have gotten our share of mixed reaction. Some of the funny ones are that, it has nothing to do with reality. I'm like, really?
Pardon me for laughing.
I'm
joking. This has everything to do with reality, or you're just living in another reality.
Yeah. But that's why we tell stories.
Exactly.
I get all kinds of reactions and maybe create a conversation.
Yeah. Well, a true veteran of this business and a leader for the industry as well. Lesli, Linka, Glatter, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. It's such a joy to talk to you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.